So talking about how to improve the electoral process, as has been highlighted by several persons, as you saw in that report. We've got Chinenye Nwabweze here with us, who is a political analyst. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Well, having seen the concerns raised by all of those persons who were involved there, how should we be approaching this?
Well, when you look at electoral reforms as they're talking about now, concentration is going towards the laws. And people are looking at the National Assembly. Are they going to come up with new laws to improve the process? But for me, I think that there are two dimensions to it. And more importantly, the internal administrative processes of INEC. That is what is more important. No matter how well a law is crafted, no matter the intendments of that law, if the drivers of the law go in there with the intendment to frustrate the law.
Is that the reason why we're having inconclusive elections?
To a large extent, yes. To a large extent, yes. Because people go in there deliberately and subvert the laws.
If these are loopholes for INEC, and INEC must undergo some kind of restructuring or reformation, just so that those loopholes
Not necessarily.
are blocked.
You know, we like...
How do you expect that to work?
We like a lot of these phrases, restructuring, reformation. You know, we always put these things out there. Since 1999, and nothing has been done. The current chairman should evaluate the process as it is. How good are the internal administrative processes of INEC? Take, for instance, the movement of materials. Okay. Look at the result sheets that were used. These were carbonized result sheets. Now you write on the original copy. It only imprints on the first, second, and third. Fourth, fifth, the rest are blank. That's the situation we had in this particular election. Now, in an election where you have 10 people contesting, for instance, in the House of Assembly, for instance, and they have 10 agents in the polling units, and after the elections and you do collation, you begin to enter into the result sheets, and only 2 result sheets are legible enough, are clear enough for the agents to read. What do you expect happens afterwards? They begin to fight to get the first, second, or third. You know,
if I take you through some of the suggestions and proposals, the amendments that were made last year by, I think, yes, 2017, as a matter of fact, by this 8th Assembly. When you speak about the conduct of the drivers of the law, yeah. If you take, for instance, where it says presiding officers must now instantly transmit accreditation data and results from polling units to various collation centers. Presiding officers who contravene this shall be imprisoned for at least 5 years, no option of fine. So legislation can indeed take care of perhaps some of those intentions of officers who think they may be out of order.
Can. What about implementation of the legislation?
But if you break the law, you break the law. If they put the law in place,
you break the law and nobody comes after you, nobody arrests you, nobody takes you to any court. Have you seen any presiding officer charged to court? In this last election, did you see results she's being pasted in the polling units? Well, INEC deliberately did not do collation. For instance, in my state, Imo State, where I come from, INEC deliberately did not do collation at the ward centers.
Well, we saw, it was live on TV, we saw how collation officers who were trying to manipulate the figures were arrested. So
we're waiting for them to be
charged to court.
Let's see. So it's not enough to arrest people, because even in Imo State, for instance, people were arrested. Only for us to see them the next day walking the streets.
Yeah, but
so
the last elections,
the same situation.
The last elections, INEC did publish that about 91 persons have been charged to court for electoral offences. So if the law is in place, we need to find out how to improve those processes. So if the law is in place...
That's what I'm talking about. We need to improve the administrative processes. It's very key.
What are these processes?
For instance, the movement of materials. Materials were housed at CBN. Moving it from CBN to the local government headquarters. And then from the local government headquarters to the rack centers. It was totally flawed all the way. Parties had to provide security.
But this was not the same across. It wasn't the same across the country.
It wasn't the same across the country. That's what I'm saying now. In some states it fails. In some states it works. That shouldn't be so.
Yeah. So
you should have the same standard across the 36 states.
But if you remember,
yes,
INEC chairman did say we need to have a conversation about election management in this country. So it appears that
conversation between who? Between himself and Nigerians, or between himself and his staff?
Of course,
that's what I'm saying, that he needs to look inwards and correct the lapses that exist within his organization.
It's like the only issue you really have is with what happened in Imo State.
No. It's not the only issue I have. I'm talking about administrative processes that are affecting the credibility of the elections. Administrative processes that INEC staff are deliberately undermining.
What do you think is the role?
For instance, look at the recruitment process of INEC.
Okay.
They advertise, they recruit, they train a week to the elections, 2 weeks to the elections. They don't have any way of evaluating whether those they trained actually keyed into the training they were given, and then they're deployed to polling units to work. And you now have a situation where you have coppers in the polling units who don't even know what they're supposed to do. You have people who are assistant presiding officers who cannot even operate smart card readers. That's the situation we had. It has nothing to do with Imo State. It was across Nigeria.
But that particular case, because you can't measure it in terms of percentages, there are those who will tell you it's very minimal in terms of, because if you look at the way the results,
no one will say it was.
But you can't score what percentage was that malfunction.
I would not just the card readers. I would put it at 75% because it was there. People were shouting. People were suspicious because of the entire failure along that chain.
Sorry? That could just be in a couple of states, not necessarily the whole federation.
Yeah. No, not the whole federation. But when you have people complaining in the entire southern region of Nigeria, and you have people complaining in the north central, you have people complaining in the northwest, how do you describe it? Is that over 70%?
Okay, since you've talked about the INEC and their staff,
yes.
What, in your view, is the role of a returning officer?
A returning officer at what level, for instance?
At the local government level. At
the local government level. Well, he's supposed to collate the results that come from all the wards in the local government.
Who brings it to him?
Beautiful question, because that goes back to what I was talking about. Now, when results are collated at the polling units, the EC8As, it moves from there to the local government collation center of the ward, where it is entered into the EC8B. So, for instance, a ward that has 11 polling units, you will expect 11 EC8As getting to the collation center, and then one EC8B coming out from that collation center going to the local government. But when INEC does not collate at the ward level, you have all the ECAs moving to the local government. And then at that point, anything could happen. And then when they begin to do their final collation, it gets into the EC8C. The EC8Bs are supposed to be entered into the EC8C. That is where the RO we are talking about now comes in. And his job now is to collate these results and make a pronouncement. For instance, in the case of State House of Assembly, it ends at that point.
So if his role is to collate the results and announce it,
yes,
and he decides, does he have the power to cancel the elections? Haven't seen that
there's a lacuna, there's a lacuna there.
Well, hold on. Yes. Haven't seen that it has gone through the relevant processes before it gets to him through his fellow INEC downlines.
The word you use there now, the driving word there is relevant. Relevant processes through the INEC downlines. What if those processes were deliberately thwarted? What if those processes were deliberately undermined? Because the law, Section 68 says that, well, when he makes a pronouncement, it stands. You can only challenge it in a competent court like the tribunal. But what if the process is thwarted at that stage?
Okay, now
what does the RO do? For instance, where he gets information that POs were taken hostage, that results were deliberately manipulated, and he's looking at those results right in front of him there. Was he supposed to
in terms of improving the process,
yes,
some suggestions was, again, referring to some of those amendments that were proposed.
Okay.
Because if you identify the problem, we should take a look at what possible solutions may be.
That's right.
Now, if this amendment goes through where it says all presiding officers must now first record accreditation data and polling results on INEC's prescribed forms before transmitting them, the data results recorded must be same with what they transmitted. So if the electronic process is introduced, and after having the electronic register, INEC is also, or eventually if this passes, will have a manual register as well. So on both ends, you have that to check perhaps malfeasance of one party or persons or the other. Wouldn't this help perhaps mitigate all of these infractions?
It will, definitely. For instance, the issue of overvoting now, if we didn't have the smart card readers, nobody would be talking about overvoting. It's because we have the smart card readers that people can say, oh, you have this number of accredited voters in this unit. So if you bring XY results that is way above what the smart card reader has accredited, then you have overvoting.
Okay, now looking at the broader picture.
So when we do this and apply it strictly in an election situation, we'll have improvement.
Talking about logistics.
You also don't think that the electronic introduction of some of these technologies could also be compromised?
See, you can't isolate INEC from the decadence that is prevalent in the Nigerian society today. That's a reality. You cannot isolate INEC. Those who are going to be there are going to come from the Nigerian society. They're not going to come from the moon. So as long as we don't get it right in the society, the value system of the society, the discipline that we expect of Nigerians, that people will go in there to give their best.
Is that despite the laws?
Yeah, despite the laws, yes. Despite the laws, yes.
You are aware that this is the largest election we've ever conducted, okay, involving some 72 million or more voters and all of that. Isn't it possible that the sheer size of what INEC needed to do could have also made it difficult to have the kind of a smooth, flawless election?
I don't agree. INEC had all the time. They evaluated, they came up with a budget, reviewed the budget, money was appropriated. That size is not an excuse.
Okay.
Elections are conducted in the United States of America that is far bigger than what we have here.
But
the size is not an excuse.
So
it's just not an excuse.
The United States of America has had so many years to perfect its. Aren't we beating out? Don't you think we are?
From 99 to date, how many elections? Although we have been, improving gradually, but we're not there yet.